He was the golden voice behind some of the smoothest ballads of the 1970s, the man who made millions fall in love with songs like Easy and Three Times a Lady. But behind the dazzling stage lights and screaming fans, Lionel Richie was carrying a secret that would tear apart his musical family. At 76, Richie finally admitted the truth. Leaving the Commodores wasn't just a career move, it was a painful betrayal, born from years of clashing ambitions and hidden struggles. How did the man who gave the band its heart also become the reason it broke? The Commodores were not just another funk band. They were a phenomenon born out of friendship and ambition. Formed in 1968 at Tuskegee University in Alabama, the group originally came together as a mix of musicians from different campus bands. The lineup eventually settled with Lionel Richie, Thomas McClary, William King, Ronald LaPred, Walter Orange, and Milan Williams. Their blend of funk grooves, soulful ballads, and unstoppable energy made them stand out immediately. By the mid-1970s, the Commodores had become one of Motown's biggest acts. Songs like Brick House brought the funk, while Lionel Richie's tender ballads like Easy showcased his songwriting genius. Richie wasn't just another band member. He was quickly becoming the face and voice that fans remembered. His smooth tenor and emotional lyrics reached across genres, earning the group a global audience. But with fame came pressure. Touring schedules were brutal, and Motown demanded constant hits. Inside the band, a divide began to grow. While some members wanted to stay true to the funky, hard-hitting style that defined their early sound, Richie leaned toward melodic ballads that resonated on pop charts. The push and pull between funk and pop would become both the Commodores' greatest strength and their deepest fault line. As the 1970s rolled on, Lionel Richie's influence within the Commodores only grew. His ballads dominated the charts, often overshadowing the funk-driven tracks that had first put the group on the map. Songs like Three Times a Lady in 1978 and Still in 1979 turned into massive international hits. Critics hailed Richie as one of the finest songwriters of his generation, and audiences flocked to his softer, romantic style. But not everyone in the band was happy. Some members felt sidelined, arguing that the Commodores' identity was being lost to Lionel Richie's ballads. Fans still loved the funk anthems, but record executives pushed harder for Richie's crossover hits, seeing the profits they brought. The tension was not explosive, but it simmered under the surface during rehearsals, recording sessions, and tours. Richie himself later admitted the conflict was real. "Leaving the Commodores was one of the toughest choices of my life," he said, "but I knew I couldn't grow if I stayed." For him, the band was family, but he was torn between loyalty and the need to follow his own artistic vision. By 1981, the balance within the band had shifted beyond repair. Richie's solo ambitions were no longer just whispers. They were a reality waiting to happen, and the decision he made would forever change the course of both his career and the Commodores. By the early 1980s, the Commodores were still selling out arenas and topping charts, but inside the band, the cracks had widened. Lionel Richie was writing more songs on his own, and his ballads increasingly defined the group's sound. While fans adored these softer hits, many of his bandmates longed for the funk-driven energy that had first built their reputation. Behind the scenes, Richie felt suffocated. He described it later as a creative tug-of-war. "I was surrounded by my brothers, but I knew deep down the music I wanted to make didn't fully belong to the Commodores anymore." The tension reached a peak during recording sessions, where disagreements over musical direction became unavoidable. Then came the turning point. In 1981, Richie was approached to write and record Endless Love, a duet with Diana Ross for the film of the same name. The song became an international phenomenon, selling millions of copies and earning Richie an Academy Award nomination. For many, it was proof that he could succeed outside of the Commodores, and for Richie, it was the undeniable signal that his future lay beyond the band. Though he still loved his bandmates, the success of Endless Love made it impossible to ignore what he had to do next. The decision would not only change his career, but leave the Commodores at a crossroads they struggled to recover from. In 1982, Lionel Richie made the announcement that stunned fans worldwide. He was leaving the Commodores to pursue a solo career. For the public, it seemed like a bold career move. For Richie, it was one of the most painful choices of his life. "I saw those guys as family," he later explained, "but I knew if I stayed, I'd never truly find my own voice." The split was not marked by open hostility, but it was bittersweet. Bandmates expressed disappointment, feeling that Richie's departure threatened the group's future. They had built their empire together, and suddenly, their lead singer and primary songwriter was gone. The immediate aftermath was stark. The Commodores struggled to maintain their momentum without Richie's ballads driving the charts. Meanwhile, Richie's debut solo album in 1982 produced hits like Truly, which soared to #1. The contrast was clear. Richie's star power was undeniable, but the band he left behind was fading from the spotlight. For Richie, the solo success came with mixed emotions. He had proven his instincts right, but he also carried the weight of knowing his decision had altered the fate of his musical family forever. Once free from the Commodores, Lionel Richie wasted no time proving his place as a global superstar. His self-titled debut album in 1982 was only the beginning. By 1983, Can't Slow Down cemented his legacy with classics like All Night Long and Hello, earning him 2 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year. But while Richie's career was soaring higher than ever, the emotional cost escalated. The Commodores, once his brothers in music, felt left behind, and the press frequently pitted them against each other. Richie admitted that the loneliness of being a solo act hit harder than expected. "You're standing on the biggest stage in the world," he reflected, "and yet sometimes you feel completely alone." The demands of superstardom also took a toll. Endless tours, media appearances, and the pressure to keep delivering chart-topping hits began to weigh heavily on him. Unlike in the band, where responsibilities were shared, Richie carried the full weight himself. Fans saw the glamorous lifestyle, but behind the curtain, Richie was navigating exhaustion, strained relationships, and the fear that success might come at the cost of his personal well-being. The split from the Commodores had far-reaching consequences. For Richie, it unlocked one of the most successful solo careers of the 1980s. He became the voice behind timeless ballads and global anthems, even co-writing We Are the World with Michael Jackson in 1985, a song that defined an era of musical activism. For the Commodores, however, Richie's absence left a void they never fully recovered from. While the band continued performing and releasing music, they struggled to replicate the magic of their late 1970s peak. Critics often described them as a group forever missing their heart. Fans, meanwhile, had mixed reactions. Many celebrated Richie's new success, while others mourned the end of the original Commodores lineup. Still, as time passed, nostalgia softened the sting. Both Richie and his former bandmates emphasized their continued respect for one another, even as they pursued separate paths. In interviews, Richie has admitted that he sometimes wonders what might have happened if he had stayed. But he also makes clear that his solo career allowed him to grow in ways he never could have within the band. His words capture the bittersweet truth. It was both painful and necessary. Thanks for watching. Click here to check another video and make sure to subscribe to our channel.